Very sweet of you. Thank you, Pamela. It's so nice to see everyone here. Today is quite the day. Hi, Amy. Yeah, hi, Mia. Today for me has felt... Hi, Elizabeth. Welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. This is day 7 of 21 days of TARE and of Green TARE, excuse me. And this series was inspired by Green TARE's initiation. We received, hi, Brittany. Hi, Harmony. We received so many emails marveling at the synchronicities of Green TARE's initiation being released during these times that we are now facing with this viral epidemic. And as I've shared in the previous videos, hi, Amy, this concept of being able to heal the sickness of the mind and the spirit and the soul and the heart through mantra practice and through claiming in traditional lineages, it would be calling upon a divinity out, both within and outside of ourselves, to divinely intervene. And what's so unique about the Sophia Code is we're starting from the inside out. We're recognizing that we have these beautiful ascended master mentors, such as Green TARE, that we can call upon to divinely intervene alongside us. But that the heart of the message of the Sophia Code is that each and every one of us are here to activate our own sovereign divinity and to remember how to consciously embody that sovereign divinity in such a way that we can command miracles, we can offer prayer, we can meditate just as the masters did and affect great change here on earth, not just for excuse me, not just for ourselves, but for the liberation of all beings, as they would say in Tibetan Buddhism. So what does that mean? What that means is that you can dedicate everything that you do to helping others, even as you are helping yourself. It's about living your life as a prayer, that the more you step into your own empowerment, the more it benefits everyone else. The more your resonance, the more where you are choosing to abide in your consciousness consistently, it affects the field of consciousness that we're all connected to. And for many light workers, this is a period of time where we're learning how to strengthen our personal boundaries while also being a part of the collective and assisting the collective transmuting so much fear, panic, and anxiety. Today was the first day since the CB outbreak that I woke up and I felt something in my heart for humanity that I did not want to feel. And I checked into my heart. I had been having really, as I'm sure many of you might be experiencing, really challenging dreams right now. And that was real for me last night. But then also just waking up to this feeling in my body that we're going, humanity in its consciousness is choosing to go somewhere in its consciousness that we don't want to go over the next few weeks. And yet, because we are a part of this dream that's being dreamed here on this planet, it is up to us, especially over this next week, to be very, very strong, to be very clear, to be very sober to the truth of your divinity. I was asking the Ascended Masters today as I was having to drive to get some supplies. I said, you know, what is the message for today? And the message for today, they said, was no matter what unfolds over the next 2 weeks, wherever humanity needs to go in its relationship to pain and suffering to evolve into its greatest light. Oh, hello. I see you're scoping out my lap. How committed are you? Don't go for the computer. Do you want me to bring you up here? What's happening? Okay. Rue's going to join us from the floor. All right. So, the message that they offered was that it was this image where there was a lot of black, and the souls that had been participating in the Sophia Code movement, the souls that are walking in our mystery school, the souls that are on this broadcast with us, we became these fiery pillars of light, like lighthouses for a place in humanity's consciousness that none of us want to go, but we're going on some level of transmutation for the collective. And that was really interesting to wake up to that realization this morning of like, okay, I'm gonna get a little darker before it gets brighter for this round of what we're all going through. And I was thinking about an analogy for this that could be helpful. And number one, it's like humanity is so addicted to what, if you know, when people get really, really addicted to watching movies that scare the crap out of them, but they still watch them anyways because it gives them an adrenaline rush to scare themselves that much. Humanity has been so programmed and addicted to watching the story of its own demise that it's almost as though humanity is just going belly up to wake itself up from its addiction to this nightmare that we're all experiencing. And imagine if you had a family member that had a very challenging addiction, but you knew in your heart that if you stood by their side through the recovery process, through the getting clean process, through the reconciliation process, if you stood by your loved one's side long enough, that you knew that a change was going to happen, that their life was going to be saved. I mean, one of the most touching moments, I think, in a movie for me would be watching how June Carter helped Johnny Cash get sober. I mean, that's what we're looking at here. We're looking at a tough love, a divine love, as the Sophia dragons talk about it in chapter 13 of the Sophia Code, a wrathful love, a love that's willing, like the Order of Magdalena, willing to incarnate into the darkest of places to bear the brightest of light. Many of you on this call have decided that you no longer want to choose suffering and pain to motivate you spiritually, okay? Most people, however, do not even know where to begin with their spirituality, and so they just keep heaping pain and pain and pain and suffering onto themselves. And that's how we've ended up into this space right now where humanity has refused to look at its suffering for so long, its addiction to suffering, its addiction to hating itself for so long, that when that it has refused to look at the amount of suffering our governments have imposed upon ourselves, the amount of suffering religions have imposed upon the populations. And so you can only ignore something for so long. Like, it took years for people to even hear a few sentences of my story before they just were like, I can't hear it, I can't listen, I can't do it. It just freaks me out so much that even anything like that exists. But if you ignore that these realities are happening, and they're happening to millions of children all over the world, if you ignore that these agendas are unfolding to populations all over the world, not just the human trafficking, every level, the geoengineering, the chemtrails, the bioengineering of viruses, it's just like, if humanity keeps ignoring it and like sticking its head in the sand, it can't grapple with how we got this far down deep, down the rabbit hole. So that's what you and I are doing in this Keycode 3 initiation. We're getting really real about what's happening, what's unfolding right now on the planet, so that we can get really real about why we came here. We came here to reconcile humanity to its divinity. We came here to burn our bright light, to radiate it, to burn bright against this, back, to push this darkness back through the brilliance of our radiance. For many of you on this call, you knew that you were going to be of great service in some capacity in this way at some point in your life. I've known since I was a child. I was having visions of these times we were living in every day and every night of my life as a child. And you know, I think there's a lot of light workers in the Sophia Code community that on some level have had the same experience in some capacity of like, they know they're here for something big. The something big is here now, and it's not going away. We have 10 years. Over the next 10 years, it's going to decide a lot for humanity, how we want to plant the seeds for spiritual revolution for the next 10 years to unfold, either for us to prosper or for humanity to become even more enslaved to these dark agendas and even more asleep. The only way that I have found over the course of my life to walk people through the passages that are required to flip on the switches of their awakening, so much so that they can break free of the mental and emotional chains that are keeping them tied to these agendas of suffering, is by walking them through the Sophia Code. I spent 7 years of my life in relative solitude, hermited away, listening to every word the Ascended Masters had asked me to write into this book. And it was not easy. I had to flip on all the switches myself as I was going through this very process that's here now for humanity. So the Ascended Master's message was, you know, as always, just so simple and clear, was like, it could get darker, it could get blacker, and that means you're going to have to burn brighter. They said you need to ask your community. It's one thing to burn brightly as a collective when you can gather online together. Can they do this on their own yet? Can they do this if, for whatever reason, 3, 5, 7 days where there is no connection like this, can they sit in the Holy Spirit fire that they are and be able to continue to send divine love and presence to the rest of humanity that needs to go this deep and this dark inside of its unconscious wounding? Now, I'm not saying anything is going to happen in particular. What I am saying is that I woke up with a feeling this morning that we are far through it, shall we say, and that this is the perfect time for us to walk through Keycode 3. It's just like all of this has been divinely orchestrated. So we're moving in this Keycode 3 initiation, and in our mala practice, we're moving from spiritual infancy to spiritual maturity. We're moving from codependency, from interdependent sovereignty. Very, very different, where each of us are sovereign and whole unto ourselves, and we've learned how to have healthy, interdependent relationships with our loved ones and with this world. Codependency is a form of enslavement that keeps us in repetitive patterns, as well as other forms of enslavement such as addiction, self-sabotage, self-mutilation, self-abandonment that's very rampant on this planet as well. There's varying degrees of how dark it can get, but ultimately there is only one bright light that is the solution, and that is your sovereign divinity.